It's the Redbird Reboot Podcast. Are you ready to get rebooted, Cardinals fans? He settles down, at least in the zone, and does not stop running.
Blake Murphy.
This is the identity for the Arizona Cardinals.
The run defense is just horrendous, and it's been horrendous for the Cardinals for a long time.
And Marcos Labrada.
He's going to bring over his philosophy. It should make it better.
Present the hottest NFL podcast from the country's hottest state.
He should be turning around the logo.
Actually, some breaking news we can cover here. This popped up just about, 6 minutes ago.
It's Redbird Reboot.
Hello, Arizona Cardinals fans. Welcome in. This is the Redbird Reboot Podcast. Our big question today, after this loss to the Seattle Seahawks, is the Cardinals season over? For all intents and purposes, it's going to be a tough slog on the way out if the team is still going to have a shot at making the playoffs. I'm Blake Murphy, and I'm joined, of course, with my co-host at Pancake Soul, Marcos Labrada himself. Marcos, this is a game I think a lot of Cardinals fans saw. Close loss to the Seahawks, a close loss with maybe giving the game away to Minnesota. There's a lot of people who felt like Arizona at home was going to have an advantage coming up against this Seahawks team with an opportunity to essentially take the division. There was a 76% chance because of this game of the Cardinals being able to win the NFC West. That has now completely collapsed after the Cardinals come out and look, whatever you want to call it, soft, outmatched, overmanned against the Seattle Seahawks, who are now in the driver's seat for the NFC West. Some of your thoughts on what is probably the most disappointing loss of Jonathan Gannon's coaching career, and for sure the most disappointing game of the season for Cardinals fans.
Well, like a lot of what people are saying out there is like, hey, we have the opportunity to put ourselves in the driver's seat, and that's not something that we've been able to say like in probably like the last 2 years, where like games in this time we're trying to lose, or we're trying to see what's going to happen, where we're going to maneuver ourselves in the draft. Right now we're talking about like, hey, if we win, talking about 2 weeks ago, if we win one of these two games, we can have a chance to either win the division or, trying to maneuver ourselves into the playoff contention, because we're not out obviously yet, but now our road there is pretty difficult. So it feels kind of good to be able to talk about it in that perspective. But just like you just mentioned, it's a disappointing loss. It is what it is. We had two opportunities, two cracks at it. We did really well against the Minnesota Vikings, losing to them by just a measly field goal. But this game was very disappointing. We were playing at home. We saw the crowd of Seahawks fans just come into our stadium just as usual. And they basically, the first drive gave us some confidence. But after that first drive was done and, the rest of the game, we could go and talk about this to all, like, till the birds come home, or whatever the saying is. We know what happened. And unfortunately, after that, like, we kind of lost momentum, and the driver's seat was we weren't no longer in the driver's seat when it comes to our own future.
Absolutely. And this is honestly, as far as stretches go for the season, the Cardinals were at 2-4. They go on a 4-game winning streak, which I don't know if I would say surprised people, but I think that was what we had all pictured would be the softest part of the Cardinals schedule. They were playing against the Bears, who had even with a 4-4 record, seemed like that they were going to have some issues coming into Arizona with that team. They were able to pull one off against the Chargers to kind of open up that stretch with a close win, which now looks pretty impressive. That may be the most impressive win of the season after the 49ers game. They have a comeback win against the Dolphins, kicking a field goal to end it. They dominate the Bears and then dominate the Jets before heading on to effectively their bye week. Come out of the bye week, and it's a game in which they had a chance at the very end. They doink a field goal, end up losing 16-6 in a rainy game. Jonathan Gannon seemed to indicate that there was going to be preparation for that second game, knowing if you lose to the Seahawks here, doesn't matter as long as you can beat them at home. They then essentially give the game away for the Vikings, and maybe Marcos, that was probably the best picture, where if you're in the NFL and you lose 2 games in a row, it's really hard to be able to get the ship righted. I think coming into this stretch, most Cardinals fans would have said, if you can win 2 of the next 3, it's your toughest games of the season. But then you have games against the Patriots and the Panthers, Do you have something that the Rams are still playing for? Would the 49ers in the late season be able to even put some of their starting guys out who are a bit older? What we've really seen, Marcos, is that when the Cardinals have been playing against playoff teams, they've been very different as far as their record. So against playoff teams such as the Bills, the Cardinals, the Commanders currently, who are right now in the driver's seat for that wild card with Arizona's loss and Seattle's win, the Packers, the only team so far that they've actually been able to win that is a playoff team is that win against the Chargers, which was essentially that weird turnover crazy field goal to end it, driving down the stretch with Kyler being able to get that rushing touchdown. What I think we have to be able to say, Marcos, is that the Cardinals right now, as it stands, are out of the playoff picture and are in line for the 16th overall draft pick, which makes them one of the best non-playoff teams in the NFL. But at the same time, you can say that they're probably fits from what we've seen with this team this season at 6-7. We thought, hey, maybe they're a good team cleaning up some of these close wins. With dropping these 3 in a row, we probably get to be able to say that, yeah, going into this season, people are saying the Cardinals finishing 7-8 wins, maybe if you're lucky, a 9-win season. At 6-4, you really expect that to be the floor. And instead, it feels like we probably get to accept this is a middling team that entered the season that hasn't seen a lot of changes or improvements or upgrades. And it could be a team that leaves the season very middling unless they're able to go on a 4-0 win streak to end the season, knowing that the Seattle Seahawks have 2 games ahead of them. You're going to have to also stave off the Los Angeles Rams. You'll have to hope that the Rams can beat the Seahawks. You beat them. It's a tall order for the Cardinals to make the playoffs. When you take a look at the current playoff picture in the NFC, you have, of course, at the top, the Lions and the Eagles games. I should say Lions game, of course, is one that the Cardinals lost, with the Chiefs and Bills on the other side. Seahawks now actually are the 3 seed with being able to have that advantage over Arizona. The Vikings, of course, in the 5th seed, the Packers and the Commanders. All of these teams have beaten the Arizona Cardinals this year. And Marcos, when you don't beat other playoff teams, your chances of making the playoffs go to near nil. Cardinals are now at a 9% playoff probability. They are now at least not quite a basement dweller in the NFC. They're still in the picture, obviously. But what I think is really interesting is that because they are now seeing destiny out of their control, it really begs the question, is the season really over? Should the Cardinals act as though the season's over? Is this now a spot where a lot of fans I know are going in pretty much not looking forward to the games against the Patriots and the Panthers that probably would have solved a lot of wrongs for Cardinals fans if they had gotten 1 win in this stretch? You go at home, play Drake May while he's still a rookie, a Patriots team that has been struggling this year. You then go and have a chance to beat one of those Blue Cat teams on the road in the Carolina Panthers, who are starting to look a lot better as Bryce Young has played well. It feels like that this season has kind of gone from being optimistic to trying to avoid disaster down the stretch, and that's a tough pill to swallow if you're a Cardinals fan.
Sorry, no, it's because of the whole technical issues I'm having. I have to actually click on the unmute button, so my apologies.
You're good, brother.
My apologies. And I mean, it's just like I've said, and we've talked about this before. We want to have control in our own, like we want to be in the driver's seat of our own future and whatnot. Now we're talking about different things that have to happen where one team has to lose, one team has to win. We have to cheer for maybe even teams that we don't even want to cheer for so that they can go ahead and kind of like bring down like the win and loss column. And I can say sometimes I would be excited about it. There was times where like the Cardinals, like for example, 2013 Cardinals that had no shot or no business being in the playoffs and whatnot, didn't make it. But I remember rooting at the end of that year for the Saints to be able to win that, to be able to lose that game, because if the Saints had won whatever beat whatever opponent they're beating at the time, or the team that they were playing against, if they had lost that game, Cardinals were going to make it to the playoffs if they had beaten the 49ers that game. But the way that this played out was the Saints were playing first. The Cardinals were playing the San Francisco 49ers afterwards, and these 2 games had implications of whether we're going to be in or not. And what ended up happening was the Saints won, they got into the playoffs, and then the rest of that San Francisco 49ers game, it was just a pride game. It was like, we win, but it wouldn't matter, we're not making it. So when we're talking about all these like kind of like bracketology, I guess you can say, where is this team going to fit in? What are we looking to see play out and whatnot? It it doesn't matter in the in the long run because of the fact that hey, we still need to put ourselves in the driver's seat, and we didn't do that. We failed to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and what's tough, Marcos, is this was honestly a promising open for the Arizona Cardinals. When we're looking at least at just that first drive that they had established, you're able to see that the Cardinals had some play action faking with a great screen pass to open things up. Seahawks, they've done what other NFL teams have done over the past few weeks, put more bodies on the line against this Cardinals offense, which in one case you can say, all right, like they're able to take away James Conner in the run game, get some pressure on Kyler Murray. He's dealt well with pressure earlier this year. What we've kind of seen has been when you're able to get some of these screens off and execute it well, take advantage of tendencies, you're able to pick up a first down pretty easily. The Seahawks can't rush as many people. We've also been able to see at least Marcos with, let me get back to our good old clip over here. We've also been able to see a little bit more of Kyler Murray struggling when it's come to pressure. That's been something I think that's been very interesting. We didn't really see it on this first drive, however, but then over time throughout the game, it really did end up becoming an issue for Arizona.
I mean, it's actually been kind of weird knowing that like Kyler Murray has been good against the blitz, at least in his senior years with Cliff Kingsbury, and now he's just. I think what's going on is because of his different reads, his different offensive philosophy and whatnot. Him being under center, I mean, he has to turn his back to the defense. When they get that pressure, when he has to turn his back to the defense, look at number 58 barreling down on him. He has no idea until he turns around, and then he's able to see that. So in these instances, yeah, it's kind of hard for him to like see anything down the field in a split second.
Yeah, on this play, either Paris wasn't supposed to go over to this side, or what it looks like here as far as the play design. You can see at least that you've got a right guard crossing over to this side, or the center, I should say, in Froholt crossing over. Really feels like someone, at least in that spot, had a mental error. In this spot, because of looking at where the guys are picked up, you see three guys essentially end up going right to that spot here. Evan Brown goes to this side. You can see it looks like it's supposed to be a handoff to James Conner would be kind of the best overall play. Kyler ends up faking the play for the most part like that and has a guy right in his face. That would be one of the areas, if you had to say one player, put it on here, you hand the ball off, it's one thing. Connor is looking over here for the ball to see if he can get rid of it. Whether it was a protection that messed up or trying to set up what seemed to be potentially a tight end screen over here to Trey McBride, it ended up not working out. And the offensive line had issues all day for the most part. You can see here on some of the next plays or two, there's not a whole lot of space. Seattle did a good job of looking at a lot of the counter game or some of the trap that Arizona ran. You can see here, number 90, Jerron Reed. I saw this on the very first series. He just bulldozed his way through the line where he got instant penetration, where this play is essentially blown up dead from the start. And you can see here with number 27, Tariq Woolen, and then, of course, the nice cornerback, Witherspoon, kind of filling some of that Buda Baker role where you've seen having good safeties, nickel combo, who can tackle and make plays, really does make a difference in the run game. The Cardinals, however, were able to, at least fortunately, capitalize on some of what they were able to have. This first play was one that we haven't seen the Cardinals do as much on 3rd and 9, and it really is kind of one of the plays of, when we think back to the Cliff offense, why they haven't run some of these types of like nice, simple, this is a kind of part mesh concept you can see here with the guy cutting underneath, another coverage that's set up there. Kyler just hits it on the outside shoulder, perfect pass play, picks up the first down. We'd see mesh concepts that would get run sometimes with Cliff. We've even seen one or two that were ran last year. This is just one that, when it comes to playing against man coverage, you can see it's got cover zero. They're just basically bringing everyone with one person as a quarterback spy. Great way to be able to play it. That means that you've got these guys in man. Cardinals have a play that's perfectly designed for that, where everyone's looking toward the likes of Trey McBride, and they're able to pull the safety down and get the ball right there to Zay Jones. Honestly, it's one of those places where when we talk about play calling as an art form, whatever the problem that you see here is with all these guys here on the line, you've got a play that's the solution for it. They read it and diagnose it as man coverage. Kyler's able to quickly get rid of the ball, and they pick up the first down. The next play that we do end up seeing is one of these kind of typical James Conner runs up the middle. Gets called back, at least, unfortunately. I believe that there was a flag on the play, and we saw flags, Marcos, for yet another week has been an issue for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, it hasn't been. I'm not sure if it's just the pressure of these games being more high stakes and them having to like wanting to hold, because offensive linemen get away with holding all the time and stuff, and they're just getting more. Maybe they were getting leniency, they're not getting it anymore. It's just a pressure, maybe.
Yep. Now, that being said, that one was the 1st and 5, at least, where the Seattle had encroachment, which is part of why the play was blown dead. So the Cardinals did take advantage, at least, of that with being able to have a touchdown eventually. But like we said, the whole entire story that we've talked about this Cardinals season and their offense seems to have been outside of the Dolphins game, outside of a quarter against the Los Angeles Rams. When you stop the Cardinals' rushing attack and the ball goes on Kyler Murray to have to play, we have not seen a consistent enough passing offense to be able to, unfortunately, develop. The Cardinals have had the 6th best rushing offense and the 24th best passing offense coming into this game. You're going to have to find ways to either run the ball effectively, or you're going to have to be able to develop a passing attack. And what we saw in this game was with the offensive line playing how it was, with Kyler having the turnovers that he did under pressure. There's not one single place to blame. There's a lot of people who want to blame the quarterback, a lot of people who blame the line. And one of these plays here, you get to see how the play action worked well. And this is where I think there was a lot of optimism for Arizona Cardinals fans. They are able to go down, get a touchdown, hold the Seahawks to a field goal. Just a nice little bootleg type of action that you're able to see here. Actually, let me go back to that play for you all here. This is going to be the... Sorry about that, folks. I just ended up going a little bit far on that. Here we go. So just looking at how they've got it set up, bringing Dortch into motion. They go over and cover, and what ends up happening, at least as you can see, when they bring, I think this is Kobe Bryant down over here into the box to cover up with the tight end that's over here on the side. Kyler changes the play, realizes, hey, guess what? There is nobody over this way on the safety because he's faking over here like he's going to be looking toward a potential tight end screen. He's got it to Dortch. This is a blown coverage. Murray at least takes advantage of that. He's got not just one option over here, but he's got a second one with that play change, being able to adjust the route. Michael Wilson just runs past him, catches the ball, and is gone for a touchdown. It did not get easier than that all the rest of the day for the Arizona Cardinals, Marcos.
Yeah, somehow like Kobe Bryant goes in rates like at an 89 total. I'm not saying he didn't have a good game, but in the league game, that's I get that the design caught him off guard where he thought, and they do run like a lot of tight end dump offs to like the right side or to the side that the quarterback is rolling out to. But in this instance, you do have to make sure you cover like you have to cover deep no matter what the circumstance happens, because that you always have a deep route. In every single play action fake, you have a deep route installed, you have an intermediate, and then you have a flat route. So that was on him, and Michael Wilson was way wide open. So good thing on being able to take advantage of that.
Yep, no, absolutely. Let's go ahead and just do a couple more plays, and then we'll focus on those turnovers. This, to me, I think sums up a lot of what I saw from the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. The physicality that the Seahawks had at the line, and then this is a game in which the lack of athleticism for the Cardinals on the offensive line, I think, really stood out. So on this play, you're able to look at this is just a kind of a simple stretch over to James Conner. He then is going to be reading the zone to go whether he's going to cut inside, cut it back outside. Look at number here, 74, where you've got the block that's set up. Number 13, the linebacker, is kind of flowing down into the hole. He's supposed to be able to kind of get rid of his man, kind of follow through. He gets a little bit stepped on. But even with all of that, you're supposed to be able to go over there, get downfield, block your man, take a good angle. It's not a great angle there from the right guard. It's one of those places where obviously you can say you miss Will Hernandez, but look at when 13 then gets that penetration, you've got a 3-on-2 matchup on the outside. Should be pretty easy for James Conner to be able to run outside. Instead, look at what happens there with Tip Ryman. He ends up giving up essentially part of the edge. Jonah Williams is out there to block. This was a game in which I did not think that the tight ends did a very good job of blocking on the edge. So you're talking about good defensive tackles up the middle, guys who are linebackers and corners tackling on the edges. It meant that the Cardinals were going to have to drop back and throw, and that ended up favoring Seattle in the game plan big time. such as on a play like this, where Kyler Murray is under pressure. He ends up throwing the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. It's called back. We all know, at least with the with the next play, I believe it is, that the Cardinals end up running. Kyler ends up throwing, does not see the underneath coverage. This is one that you'll be able to see from when we go and broadcast over. This was a read that was poor. Kyler threw it as a spot throw, and unfortunately, it turns into an interception for the Seahawks.
Yeah, he was in the hook curl
Yep.
zone. So if we go, let's can you back it up real quick to the sideline view really quick so that okay, so this is where I was trying to figure out earlier because I was on the Red Rain and we were doing the broadcast view of this, but now that we have the all 22, this is the advantage. So he drops into that hook curl zone, but I mentioned that like he was like about 3 or 4 yards away from the line of scrimmage, maybe as a potential blitzer. So that's where you can maybe come in hot. He bails obviously to that hook curl zone area with his back towards Marvin Harrison Jr. So this is what Kyler Murray apparently said. He said he had seen him turn because they asked him, did you see Ernest Jones? Said yes. And then he said he had his back turn and whatnot. That's part of like a good linebacker technique
Yeah.
where you kind of turn your back towards the opposite side, knowing that if there's a dig route behind you, you don't lose momentum by turning on the run. So look at the way he does this. This is beautiful. The technique he uses like just baits Kyler Murray into thinking
Yep.
like he's running the other way. Boom, he turns around. There it
And
is.
that's
And
one of those areas where you're right about that. It looks worse on paper when it's like he's like, oh, he didn't see the underneath coverage, but when you watch the film, like we've talked about, it does show that great play by the defense. And part of this too is like the Cardinals did this almost exact play on one of these zones with the Garrett Williams interception of Geno Smith in the end zone. They had one of those plays that was similar. It's part of with how football ends up working as a sport. Now, granted, Ernest Jones, great acquisition, being able to make a play like that. You can see here that the probable play that Kyler should have had would have been seeing, can you layer it a little bit higher potentially instead of just throwing it straight to it? Now, if you throw it too high, what we've also seen, you got a safety lurking back over here. You've got the other corner that's in, I think this is trail coverage, unless I'm mistaken, at least for the most part. And that is just a huge turnover that is unfortunate because you turn it over, it's inside of the 20-yard line. The defense still has the opportunity, of course, to be able to hold them to a field goal. They do not. Ends up being a touchdown. I believe it was on third down, I think it was, that the Seahawks were able to get that touchdown. One of those places, at least, that's unfortunate. And when you look at the next time up for the Cardinals, you end up with one of the I would say not maybe worse, but one of those similar interceptions to what we saw the week ago against the Vikings. This is one of the where
guys about the delay or all this situation. Um, Had to figure out some things with not only my camera not working properly, as you can see, I'm not in high definition. So let me go ahead and okay. All right. So anyways, what we were talking about going to that second interception. So what was going on is in that second interception was he was trying to make a play. Um, he obviously stepped into to make that throw. He was surrounded by all the defenders and whatnot. Which some of the times, as we can see from Kyler Murray's size and his stature and whatnot, it can kind of bring down his vision. That's something that we've known about. That's something that have we have been knowing that about Kyler Murray. So if you guys can just bear with me, I'll go ahead and pull up that play. All right, guys. So we have the professional all 22. I love this feed right here. This is the one that obviously gets provided, you know, to a certain amount of people and stuff. So this is the offense taking on the first drive. Let's go ahead and go over to where the interception happens. That's a great play, of course, that touchdown. All right, let's go ahead and go back to the sideline view. So you see the sideline view, you are trying to look for indicators, obviously. Whenever you're trying to diagnose coverages and whatnot, the one main thing to always think about is where's the safety at? Where is he aligned at? How many safeties do you have deep? Obviously, pre-snap is a different picture than post-snap. In a post-snap situation, they could roll into anything else. Part of that is obviously to confuse the quarterback, put him in positions of thinking that there may be somebody accounted for and not accounted for. Whatever the case may be, the first thing you got to see on the pre-snap picture is where's the safety lined up at. So if it's one high, it's one high. If it's obviously, if it's too high, you have two highs. And obviously, you want to see some indicators when it comes to the cornerbacks on the outside. What are they doing? Are they bailing? Are the butts to the boundary? That's what I always say. Butts to the boundary, usually that zone, uh, because they're trying to obviously see where the quarterback is and what he's looking for and whatnot. If they are facing their wide receiver, so if you see the helmet indicators, they're looking at the wide receiver. Most of the time, they're in press man. Not all the time. You could be 7 yards off the line of scrimmage, but in that situation, that's how you can tell, man or zone, and obviously what the coverage is. So what happens here is, Jonathan Gannon had mentioned that he said that what he saw there was a broken coverage. He's right. As you can see over here, you see Zay Jones running kind of like a corner route from the number 2 wide receiver position. Actually, the number 1 receiver position. Runs upfield. You see Ernest Jones doing what he did before, just going and walling off in this situation. Look at all that space ahead of him. So the deep safety is the one deep safety. This is Kobe Bryant, I believe. He breaks it to the inside. Now, that's wide open. Obviously, if this ball comes out way sooner than what Kyler Murray threw it at, this is a completion. A good completion over the middle. So Kyler Murray, we've been asking him, he needs to step into the pocket. He feels the pressure behind him. He goes ahead and does so, keeping his eyes downfield. The issue was that he didn't put enough on this. He tried to throw it on the rope, and obviously he target locked in the situation where if you target lock, when somebody's reading your eyes, you're giving the game away. So this was just a bad decision on his part to throw it this late. At that point, you have to know that there's a lurking safety that's probably going to come make a play on the ball. And that's exactly what happens in this situation. Now, Jonathan Gannon has said that he didn't put enough on it. That could be true. When I look at it from the broadcast view, it looked like he didn't put enough on it. I thought that Corey Bryant was always was in coverage on him, but in this circumstance, it looked like he didn't see anybody open. It was a busted coverage per se, but the safety had already had eyes on it and went ahead and hawked it down. In this situation now, where we're going to see the end zone angle, that's better for us to be able to determine where all of our people or rushers are coming from to understand why Kyler Murray had to step in. Obviously, you don't win the left tackle over here, doesn't win on his pass protection. He's kind of had to like get in a position where he's hanging for dear life, holding on the edge defender, and in doing so, he pushes the pressure back inside. Kyler Murray feels the pressure. I've always wondered why that's the case. How quarterbacks are able to do that, but he's able to do it. I think he just knew that the pressure was coming, steps in, has all that window wide open, doesn't really set his feet, throws it, thinking to himself that he's got himself a big play. Unfortunately, it becomes an interception. That's inexcusable. We know that that's inexcusable. We know that in back-to-back drives, when you gave up an interception and the Seahawks went ahead and answered that interception by going on ahead and scoring on their own drive, it's not a good thing. You spot them 7 points without it being a pick six, and then you put them back in a bad position once again. I think what's going on here is that there's been a lot of talk about the dink and dunk situation, about him just going on ahead, dumping it down to either his running back down low or to a wide receiver that's in the flat and whatnot. And he's not really pushing the ball downfield like we want to. He's been more like surgical, more dissecting when it comes to like being able to get his targets. And that made him efficient, but it's not going to work against every type of defense, unfortunately. He's right back to just getting the ball out quick right here and these upcoming drives, of course, because I think that what happened was he was scared off. Now, this whole notion that they don't run a deep routes, that's ridiculous. I'm doing some research on what is being called out there and the type of routes that are being called, and you'll always see like a deep route concept installed. Most of the time, it'll be just these turnaround digs, as you can see. The number one up top, that's most likely Marvin Harrison Jr. He's running like a little bit of a quick, like running upfield, inside release, turning around, setting in the zone. That's I believe, a 15-yard gain if he completes that. Actually, a 25-yard gain because that's way past the sticks. When we see that come wide open, we got to see what's going on with Kyler Murray here. Fakes the handoff in shotgun, goes ahead and gets rid of it. Maybe because he saw the pressure in front of him by number 53 coming up wide open. Is that by design? You got to ask yourself that question. That was a great play by Tip Ryman, though. Him getting rid of it and not, releasing it downfield, letting his guy do the play, making that shifting move by Tip Ryman. That was great. But this is a fallacy. The fallacy that people think that he does not have anything downfield to be able to throw to. That's just a lie. And I'm tired of that narrative being put out there that like Drew Petzing doesn't draw anything downfield. Maybe there could be a situation you can say that he might get schematically like creative with getting some downfield like passes coming up wide open and whatnot, or maybe that's the case for him. But a lot of these deep targets are won by wide receivers who are not only able to run their routes crisp and nice and be able to like execute like, fakes to be able to get over the top of corners, to be able to stack on corners, to be in a position where they can win downfield. Maybe that's the case. But to just say that he does not call anything downfield, as you can see the entire time from the end zone angle, you're seeing a variation of routes, either downfield and down low. That's what you do as an offensive coordinator. You call stuff downfield and then you call things down low to be able to give the quarterback all the options in the world to either take it deep or dump it down if you don't see anything deep that you like. A lot of it is coached to be like, hey, if you don't like what you see downfield or anything downfield, and if the coverage syncs with all these deep routes, you take what you can. It is how defenses are, by the way, in today's modernized defenses. They do try to take everything deep. And I'm not sure if you guys follow who Alex Rollins is. He just put out a really good video, really good YouTube video of the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins have been seen to be a deep like intermediate to deep type of offense. Takes these dig routes from like Jalen Waddle and of course Tyreek Hill, and they are running the ball like maniacs and whatnot. They do all this creative stuff. They've turned into a dink and dunk type of offense. They've turned into a ball control type of offense. He explains it thoroughly. Like when it comes to like philosophies that have changed, they were seen as a top 5 offense a year ago, and now they're somewhere in the middle tier. Why is that? Because defenses have learned to take away those play action digs or these type of routes where you put your wide receiver in motion, and when they're in motion, they get a free release at the line of scrimmage. They're taking that away, and I think part of it does have to do with Tua not being susceptible to like hits, so they're trying to get him to get rid of the ball quicker. But whatever the case may be, they changed their offense, and so this don't get me wrong, Drew Petzing, when he was first hired as an offensive coordinator, people wanted Kyler Murray in a pro style offense. Well, this is a pro style offense, people. This is a pro style offense. You smash and you bash, and as you can see, you keep the clock running, you keep moving the chains. You make it easier on your quarterback. That was the whole point. People were complaining about with Cliff Kingsbury that it's not easy. Everything seems hard. And so when you get somebody who schemes the run the best that we've ever seen it be schemed, and he's moving the ball downfield, like with the run, keeping it from a situation where Kyler Murray has to get a 3rd and long converted, or at least tries to, the people are complaining now that there's not enough when it comes to the passing game. It can be in both ways. Either people like what they see with this offense or they don't. But regardless of what the circumstance is, they are our options downfield. Now, there was one thing that I will cover before I get off on this, but there was a play for a touchdown that's just straight out of the Chiefs playbook, and that's something that's like it was designed. Did it take a lot for Kyler Murray to execute that? No, it didn't take a lot. It's just him faking the handoff and just scooping it to James Conner. And James Conner basically just sees the bubble form in front of him from offensive lineman blocking ahead of him, uses that big body, just falls into the end zone, and it's a touchdown. Right after that, they go for 2 points. What do? Fake the handoff to the running back, something we've seen a ton of times at the goal line. He follows this main block, gets flushed out. Kyler Murray goes in for a 2-point conversion. As a matter of fact, let's see if we can find it right now. No, let's actually look at this play just really quick. And we're doing a blind look. I have not seen the entire game yet, so I haven't been able to study. But once again, as you can see, let's see what the down and distance is here. Okay. So 18-27, they had already scored that touchdown and 2-point conversion. So we went too far. So it's 2nd down, 17 to go. I would assume there was either a holding penalty or some sort of sack to happen. I don't think it was a sack, but no, actually I was wrong. See, this is why you gotta wait on this film. You gotta wait because it'll change it up on you last second. Boom. All right. 3rd down, 14 to go. So this is a go situation. Now, empty set, 5 wide, not too much of a favorable type of look when you're trying to go deep. But what are you going to do? Are you going to get an attached tight end? Are you going to attach a tight end and then show that you're going to run? Are you going to put Kyler Murray in the shot in the under the pistol or under center? What are you going to do in this situation? What do you do as an offensive play caller? What do you do in the situation? What do you even call? There's so many limited options because of the fact that in this circumstance, you need to get 14 yards to keep moving. All right, so you have a shallow crosser by, I believe that's Greg Dortch. You have 3 that are right by the sticks, yard to gain. Those aren't, these aren't like hard completions. They're not the most favorite, but if I was Kyler Murray, this is exactly where I would be looking to. Now, let's see how he is in the pocket when this guy breaks free, because anticipation means you're throwing it before that guy breaks. Let's see where he's at when he's about to break, because that's where you usually want to release it, which would be, I would say, right here. He's got protection. Is he able to see that? As a matter of fact, they're running like a little, they do this all the time on third down, third and long. They do a little bit of like a mini, like they run a mesh over the middle because they know they're going to get a completion over the middle because the coverage is going to sink. They're trying not to give the Cardinals a first down. It's just how the defense plays. Obviously, he dumps it down underneath, gets tackled right away. If you're looking at this from the broadcast view, you're pulling out your hair. You're telling yourself, why isn't he throwing it deep? Why aren't they trying to call deep concepts? Look at the coverage. Look at the coverage downfield. There is a completion to be had. It's not the most best looking completion, but sometimes top-notch quarterbacks can make that throw. They can get that completion. Are they moving in to try to intercept the ball over the middle? No, I think that's Michael Wilson. He breaks to the inside, and he for the most part, if it gets released over to the outside, he has to make this throw. It's a whole shot. He has to make this, or a dot. He has to make this throw over this linebacker who's here just protecting the hook curl area. He can dump it off right over here to Michael Wilson, and that's maybe a first down. I would say that's your best chance, but he doesn't do it because he probably can't see that route. And if he sees that route, he doesn't have the confidence to be able to complete it because he doesn't want to throw another interception in his own field. That would really kill the Cardinals at that point, obviously. So yeah, he takes the dump down. My question is, what do you do? Your playbook does not look good in this instance. Let's see what led to that. As a matter of fact, let's give ourselves some nuance here, since I like to talk about nuance all the time. Let's look at the play before that. They are at the 11-yard line, hands the ball off, gets probably like 2 or 3 yards. I think this is where the play happens. So this is the pass interference on Marvin Harrison Jr. Who are you going to blame on this route or on this play? Not the best route, I'll say that. And I've been a Marvin Harrison defender, but that's not the best route. It is a comeback route. Tariq Woolen makes a good play on that. He makes a good play on that. And the saying is, if you're even, you're leaving, or you're not leaving if you're doing a comeback route. And that's how it was designed. It was designed to be a comeback route. Tariq Woolen just knew what was going on, and of course, Marvin Harrison Jr. gets a little bit handsy. He gets handsy because he doesn't want this ball intercepted. Right here, I would say, by design, like you have all these routes going to the sticks, I would have taken the dump down. It's not always a case of like, hey, he's taking the check down because he's being told to. Sometimes it's just the smartest thing to do. I would have taken my chances with James Conner down here to see if he can get that first down. It's going to be kind of hard for him to try to get him on the run, but it is what it is. But most of these receiving routes are covered with the exception of maybe Michael Wilson being the one wide receiver that might come open. He's the number 2. kind of gets like a little bit of a push off. But hey, if the guy's trying to meet you, the defensive back's trying to meet you, you meet him back. But he never obviously looks that way because he's already he in his mind he's already going to go towards Marvin Harrison Jr. So yeah, this is the play that pushed him back. It was a pass interference call, pushed him back in that third and impossible, and they took the dump down. I mean, it is what it is. Like, for people who are making the case that it's just Drew Petzing, like not calling any deep routes. Deep routes are installed in most, if not all, offensive concepts that are not just runs. You have your choices. You want to maximize your choices for your wide receiver, and part of that is, hey, we are going to put a check down in there, but they're not exactly coached to just take the check down. They're coached to take care of the ball. And if you don't like what you see downfield, take the check down. All right. If this isn't it, then I believe this has to be the drive. There we go. All right. So from the Chiefs playbook, we've seen this ran on us back in 2021. 2022, actually. That blowout. Fake the handoff, scoop underneath, gets in there, doesn't even get touched. That touchdown, before that, they ran a pass, they ran a run play, they couldn't get in. Who made that play call? Who coached them or told them how to block for this or this design? I mean, you have, I believe it's Tip Ryman motioning inward. If it's not, it's Trey McBride, probably Trey McBride, motioning inward to take that crack block to be able to give him that little bit of time, because this defensive end, who's supposed to be running upfield, thinks he's going on block. Boom, gets a little bit of the chip, just a little bit of that, just that little bit of time. James Conner turns around, is expecting the ball to be scooped. And guess what? That's a touchdown. Now they go for 2 points. Let's look at the end zone angle. That's perfect time. Yep, that was Trey McBride. They need to get him in the end zone. I would love to see a design like that for Trey McBride. It can happen. You can scoop it to your tight end. But he needs to get into the end zone. I don't know if you guys agree. I agree big time. All right, so this is a 2-point conversion. This is the last play we're going to go over, and maybe sometime we'll go over the defense and whatnot, which is something that I specialize in. So he's in the shotgun. Fakes a handoff. We've seen this with Cliff Kingsbury. Look at that block. There's just no chance for that safety or that defensive back to be able to make this play. When you have James Conner as your fullback up front, take that edge. That's it. That's beautiful. Well, all right, guys. Well, my review is we were in the driver's seat. We no longer are. We have to worry about what other teams are doing. I promise you, my camera will be fixed. Sorry about this abomination, but I hope the film and the film breakdown really helped understand a little bit more about offensive concepts. Just people can, get themselves Premium Pro. You can watch the film yourself. You don't have to get intricate with like the play calls and whatnot to be able to understand what's going on. But that's the best way to understand what's going on route wise, what's going on with the wide receivers, what's going on with the quarterback, what the vision is, and what kind of coverages he's looking at. But and that's enough of that for now. I got to get going, but I love you guys, and you guys have a great rest of your day.